mass graves in several areas around the city. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Boyle Heights, it's a bit of a boil over on that north side of the 5. As you get towards that 10, we have a crash onto the right shoulder. We're busy from Olympic. Looks like West LA, it's a wreck on the 405 south at Santa Monica Boulevard, adding to a tough drive. That's onto the right shoulder. We do have that tie still for the 405 south right around Getty. This is going to be the Sepulveda, Montana overpass near Bel Air Crest. Onto the right shoulder there, but a slow drive as far back as Roscoe. Arcadia, 210 west at Santa Anita Avenue, right to the right side here with a tough commute from at least the 57 freeway.
Wendy's BOGO $1 deal is back at participating Wendy's. Buy a Dave's Single, Spicy Chicken Sandwich, 10-piece nugs, or medium frosty, and get another for $1. Double your deliciousness. Hurry, this BOGO deal won't last.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The last time we heard LeBron James talking about basketball, he said he wasn't sure if he wanted to play again. He said he had a lot to think about. That was the night the Lakers were swept by the Denver Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals. LeBron did do a lot of thinking, and he came to the conclusion he still wants to play some ball. LeBron made it official Wednesday night at the ESPY Awards that he's coming back for a 21st season. He made the announcement after receiving an ESPY for a best record-breaking moment. LeBron is one of only 6 players in NBA history to play 21 seasons. He joins Dirk Nowitzki, Kevin Garnett, Robert Parrish, Kevin Willis, and Vince Carter. LeBron turns 39 in December. The 4-time NBA champ will earn $47 million next season in a Lakers uniform. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
2 years ago, on Juneteenth 2021, KBLA Talk 1580 launched with a promise to give disenfranchised fellow citizens a voice in current political, economic, social, and cultural issues with an empowering, sustainable, and restorative language.
Everybody's got a little light under the sun, under the sun, under the sun, under the
As we enter our 3rd year, we are delighted that KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerges as the talk station of choice for African American listeners. In a vigorous public opinion research study, the 2023 African American Media Issue Survey finds that for the 2nd consecutive year, KBLA Talk 1580 remains the most trusted, credible, and reliable media source in Southern California for African Americans and beyond. Furthermore, 80% of those surveyed agree that outlets like KBLA Talk 1580 provide honest and authentic content about the issues most important to the Black community directly from Black journalists who understand the issues that need to be addressed. At KBLA Talk 1580, we remain committed to curating conversations that matter to you. Thank you for your continued support. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. The station that sounds like the city looks. The city looks.
We just want to party, just go. We just want to party, just go.
Tavis Smiley. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Our phone number 1-800-920-1580, 1-800-920-1580. Delighted to have you with us today in this hour. We are moving ever closer. On the eve, are we, celebrating the 10th anniversary of Black Lives Matter this weekend, July 15th, Saturday, all day, 12 to 6 p.m. Here in Los Angeles, in Leimert Park. We'll be celebrating 10 years of Black Lives Matter's work and witness. Thousands of folk all across the country descending on Los Angeles this weekend, where this hashtag was founded here in California, to celebrate, again, 10 years of the work of Black Lives Matter. Looking forward to Saturday. Going to be a great day. performances, some great, I was in a meeting yesterday, a great music artist performing this weekend, some great speakers, including Dr. Cornel West, who takes the stage about 4:30. Dominic DePrima and yours truly are two of the main stage hosts this Saturday for what they're calling the People's Justice Festival. The People's Justice Festival, again, chapters of BLM all around the country descending on LA this weekend. Should be a great day this Saturday in Leimert Park, again, 12 to 6 p.m. As we are on the eve of that grand celebration this weekend, whether it is the negative stereotypes in media, microaggressions at work, suspicious treatment by store clerks, or the outright killings of black folk by police and self-deputized citizens, it is undeniable, even still, that black folk are exposed to various and vicious forms of racism. These occurrences leave mental and emotional injuries known as racial trauma. And 10 years after the founding of BLM, the question remains, what are black folk to do about racial trauma? Enter Dr. Wendy Talley, licensed clinician, who we welcome back to this program. She's a corporate wellness expert and founder and CEO of the Lease Consulting Group. Dr. Talley, welcome back to KBLA. It's been a while. How are you? How have you been?
I am well, thank you, Tavis. It is great to be back. How are you?
If I complained, I'd be an ingrate. I am doing well, and I'm delighted to be in dialogue with you for this hour. I wanted to have you on because I'm trying to cover as much ground as I can cover here as we again celebrate the 10th anniversary of Black Lives Matter this weekend here in Los Angeles. And I take some pride. I think we all should take some pride. This station is flagship here. We have people listening to us right now all across the nation, but it means something that the sisters who started this hashtag and founded BLM are all LA-based, California-based. And so I take great pride in something that was created here, curated here, and now regarded and respected and around the globe. And so we are, again, looking forward to our celebration this Saturday. But it raises all kinds of questions about what we have endured over the last 10 years, what BLM has been fighting against over the last 10 years, and certainly this stuff existed long before 10 years ago. So I wanted to check in with you for the hour to talk about racial trauma. And I think the place I want to start is here. Over the last 10 years, there have been any number, I don't need to tell you this or the audience, there have been any number of videotapes of the beatings, the murder, frankly, of African-American men and women. But we have seen these videotapes time and time and time again, whether it's Michael Brown, whether it is obviously George Floyd, the list goes on and on and on, of the footage that we have seen countless times. So I want to start by asking what impact, we'll get to the other stuff a little bit later here, but what impact does it have on us to continue seeing those kinds of images repeatedly?
Well, Tavis, that is something that we are constantly experiencing, not only out loud right now, but in actuality, we've been experiencing it internally in silence. And, this can definitely be bifold in a sense of, we are experiencing this not only mentally, but we are also experiencing it medically. And when you talk about racial trauma, it's not something of just, oh, I feel discriminated against. My employer doesn't make me feel safe, or, I've been called, various different names other than a child of God, at the grocery store. But this is something that can definitely impact you physically, where you are experiencing stress. In the medical field, and having health disparities where a person can experience digestive systems, headaches, problems with their vision. And I know many people will say, well, what that has to do with racial trauma? Well, racial trauma brings on the feelings and the constant exposure to stress. And so when you talk about those images that not only we were bombarded with, especially during the time at the beginning of the pandemic and all of those types of things, those images are being, conformed and transformed within our body chemically, where we are experiencing it physically and we're being harmed in that way. And so our health care is declining. And then mentally we experience depression and anxiety. So there are so many different aspects how racial trauma can actually affect us medically and mentally.
Yeah. I'm no researcher in this space, but I would posit that seeing those kinds of images on videotape time and time again, for some, reinforces a sense of worthlessness, helplessness, hopelessness. All three of those things come to mind when you think about the George Floyd videotape. There is a sense when you watch that your black life is worthless. Clearly he was helpless in that moment. And because Derek Chauvin would not remove his knee off his neck, he was hopeless in that moment. He's calling out for his mother, who had long since been deceased, but calling for his mother no less in that moment. So talk to me about the ways in which, again, imbibing this imagery time and time again can lead to some people who don't have strong constitutions feeling worthless and helpless and hopeless and more.
Absolutely. When we can take it all back, even from, but even before social media, we can take it back in the backwoods of the South, where we would see our fathers, our grandfathers, our children, our babies, our mothers being hanged from a tree. Mm-hmm. And so that vision of being shown, to slaves who would watch this was kind of a way to, put them in line, to be able to mentally be able to say, you are not worthy, you are less than, and you need to be conformed. And so we bring this through over time, and then we got, people like George Floyd, we got folks of all different men and women you see on police cameras, being manhandled and disrespected and shot, and you name it. This gives a sense of, am I safe? Mm-hmm. I'm a mother. I'm a black mother of a black son, and I have a black husband. And even though I know these things, it still brings me into a space of, am I safe? Does my life even matter? And so we get into those spaces of depression, and that worthlessness, guess where that leads to? Mm-hmm. That worthlessness goes into that sabotage within the workplace. It goes within the school system, the daycare, everywhere you go. Am I worthy of being able to function? Do I even matter? Do my existence even matter? Which leads from before our previous conversations about the increase in suicide amongst our young children. Mm-hmm. And so it is something that is just constantly happening. And so when you get into these spaces of mental health and therapists, we are having to reinforce, even before we even begin treatment, that you matter, that your life is worth living.
Mm-hmm. Just getting started in this hour, Dr. Wendy Talley talking about racial trauma and what black folk are to do about it. It's going to be a rich conversation. Stay where you are. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Good thing we've got 3 hours.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
You're listening to K-Drip, where we play all the best classic water-wasting hits like Sprinklers in the Rain and Leaky Faucets. They're tunes from another time, because now that we face a hotter, drier future, every drop counts. Despite an extremely wet winter, keep using less water, fixing leaks, and reusing indoor water for your garden. Visit SaveOurWater.com for more ways to conserve. Up next, brushing your teeth with the water on.
K-Drip.
If this were a Reese's TV ad, you'd be staring at a Reese's peanut butter cup. And sure, my voice is peanut buttery smooth, but still, you need to see the peanut butter cups, right? No? I can really just say Reese's and you'll go get some? Okay. Reese's. 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 Really working, actually. Reese's. Reese's. I'm on to something. Reese's. Reese's. Reese's.
Are you working way too hard for way too little? There's never been a better time to consider a career in IT. You could enjoy a recession-resistant career in a rewarding field with plenty of growth opportunities and often flexible work environments. Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation. You can start your new career in months, not years. Take classes online or on campus, and financial aid is available to qualified students, including the GI Bill. Now's the time. Go to mycomputercareer.edu.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles, with an auto warranty about to expire, or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost, month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-381-8528 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-381-8528. That's 800-381-8528. What do you have to lose? Call 800-381-8528. Again, 800-381-8528.
Let's unpack a little bit more with Tavis Smiley. The conversation continues right now.
I'm Tavis Smiley. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Our guest at this hour is Dr. Wendy Talley as we talk about racial trauma and how we fight the power, how we push back on these things that are impacting and affecting us mentally and medically, as Dr. Talley put it moments ago. She's a licensed clinician, and we're delighted to have her back on. As I mentioned earlier in this hour, I wanted her on in this week as we move toward the celebration this weekend of Black Lives Matter's 10th anniversary to talk about all that we continue to endure, never mind the progress that they have made in pushing back on police brutality and the like. It is still the case that we are subjected to all kinds of maltreatment that I want to sort of unpack in this hour and get some advice on how we, as we move forward, perhaps deal better with the racial trauma that we are experiencing. You said a few things already, Dr. Talley. I want to go back to. I think I want to start with this. We all saw. I mentioned those videotapes that we've seen over the last 10 years that many of us have watched too many times. Certainly, George Floyd that video has been viewed more than anything else. I'm certain, and yet, when those black cops in Memphis, hurt and killed that precious brother there, that videotape was seen by many of us, and what many people saw, of course, on that videotape were black folk taking on that sort of bad behavior, internalizing that bad behavior. These were black cops who were guilty and responsible. That case is making its way forward to trial now. Those cases, I should say, making their way forward to trial. But just using that as an example, but talk to me more broadly about the ways in which we take on the behavior born of the racial trauma that we have been subjected to. Does that make sense?
Yes, it really does, because, again, let's go back to just basic, human behavior. Mm-hmm. Regardless of where we come from, regardless of what language we speak, we learn, okay? We are all learners. We're learners from the moment that we are able to even breathe, even within our mother's womb. Okay, and so we learn auditory, we learn visually, but we also learn through pain. We also learn through punishment, and we also learn through reward. And so I'm not a police officer. My father was an LAPD officer many years ago and retired, Army War veteran and all of that. Mm-hmm. So I don't claim to know what goes on the inside, but I will say this. When you are part of a system and a culture and a belief that there are certain things are okay, or if you don't do certain things, then there is a cause and effect. If this happens, then this will happen. And there are some retaliation in those things. So I cannot say what was in the mind of these. I want to call them gentlemen, but I'm gonna be nice on radio. I want to be able to say that there's something in their in their line of work that made them believe that this was okay. Something where someone said there's an if then, and they got the okay to do this. And unfortunately, of course, they got caught, but fortunate for us, they did get caught. So it's unfortunate for them and, unfortunate for them and fortunate for us. But when you talk about learned behavior, right, and those individuals making that, it's something that says to us, if I don't do this, then this is going to happen to me. It's a survival mode. And so if I got to sacrifice my brother in order to get ahead, in order to be accepted by the majority, by the white culture of my department, guess what I'm going to do? Not everyone does it, but some people will agree to do that because at least they feel that they're valuable because they wear the badge, they wear the gun.
Yeah. I wrote about this in my book, My Journey with Maya. Maya Angelou was like a godmother to me. And I wrote a book about our almost 30-year relationship. And in the book, I was able to share a number of things that I'd learned in conversations with Maya Angelou. And one of the things I write about in this book is the following line that Maya Angelou shared with me on more than one occasion. She said to me many times, Tavis, processing pain without perpetuating pain is rough business. Processing pain without perpetuating pain is rough business. Can you link that comment from Maya Angelou to racial trauma? Racial trauma on the one hand, and then this notion that processing pain without perpetuating pain is difficult to not do.
When you talk about that space, when you talk about perpetuating, that pain, and processing it, sometimes we tend to separate it, right? We tend to separate it. But when we are actually displaying that pain, when we are feeling like this is something that I must do, it's a struggle. It's a battle within. And so when we are in those spaces, we have to make certain choices. And we always cannot make those certain choices. And then we feel the pain of either doing something or not doing something, or processing it or not processing it. We tend to isolate, And so I think that, when we are constantly not only visually seeing pain, but we're receiving the pain, when we are having to be able to, just push that out, when we have to also portray that pain, we do it in a way of hurt, like hurt people. So I think that, we really need to understand it from a perspective of not only am I receiving it, but how am I also giving it back out, and that can take so many different spaces as well.
Yep. There are a number of things I want to walk through one at a time. I mentioned them earlier because here we are again, 10 years into the legacy of Black Lives Matter, and the work in which they have engaged has made a difference, no question about it. But all of this persists. So the negative stereotypes in the media persist. The microaggressions at work persist. Being looked at and treated suspiciously by store clerks persist. Outright killings of black folk by police and the self-deputized Karens of the world, that behavior or misbehavior persist. And so, again, it is the case. This is not victimization. This isn't victimhood. It is the case. It is a fact that black people are still subjected to various and vicious forms of racism and bad behavior. So let me just take those one at a time and get some advice from you on how we address, how we navigate these particular spaces. Let me start with the negative stereotypes in the media. If ever there were a reality that persists, it is the following: that in the media there are still negative stereotypes of African Americans. There still is not the texture and the complexity of the lives that we live that show up on the screen, that show up oftentimes in advertising, et cetera, et cetera. So what say you about the racial trauma that many of us experience born of the negative stereotypes in media? We'll start with that one.
Wow, media is what? It is pretty much the book that all of us read from, right? Whether if we learn language or, from the time we start learning our language to the time, we start actually speaking, and giving back the same thing that we've learned. And so when you look at media and, and how Black people are being portrayed, I'm going to first start with the Black woman, okay? And then the way to do that, the way you want to damage and bring down those images, you first attack the Black woman, the Black mother, okay? And so you're attacking life. And so when we look at those things, and we're bringing those things to the forefront of everything is bad, from being overly sexualized to being angry to being seen as violent, as animals, as not being worthy. And so when media constantly do this, and we have some reality TV shows that are constantly perpetuating and making money off of Black people not only attacking one another, but also too, being able to attack their families and their children and things like that. So when you make money off of the demise of your own race, you're not really helping. You're actually contributing to the whole idea of bringing down the Black image. So the things that we definitely need to be able to do is to advocate, be able to change those images, put images out there that are better, and not for us to be able to agree to these bad images out there in the media. I may need money. I may be a struggling actress, but just because you offer me an opportunity to come on on TV and shake my butt, that I'm supposed to get all of this money. And that's supposed to be a positive thing. So now we're bringing down the value of Black Lives Matter. We're bringing down the value of just people who have shaped this country and history, people like yourself, And so when it comes to media, we need to be an advocate and to change our own image first and foremost and not feed into those things that are currently out there. Yep. And we need to engage in those conversations.
I think I heard in there a strong critique of the images that we ourselves put on screen in many of these Black reality TV shows. I mean, there's a long list of them, but I thought I heard a pretty strong critique of that.
Yes. Yes, it is. It is. We have to take accountability for ourselves. See, the one thing, when we're fighting, we have our team out there. We have a team of Black leaders that are out there fighting the bigger systems, right? From politics, the White House, you name it. They're doing that. The justice system. They're out there. They're advocating. But we need to take accountability of what we put out there. We need to take accountability of what we agree to. So we have to first make sure that our image that we put out there represents something that's positive, something that's innovative, creative, culture that's about education, that's about innovation, and also even about fun. We're not taking the fun out of it, but there's a level of respect. And so we have to take ownership. See, we can be able to say, oh, what you did or what you guys are putting out there. But if we don't show up to the table, how can they put it out there? But as long as we're showing up in our Ubers, as long as we're showing up at the table and we're signing our life on the dotted line for a measly little check and we're still going back home to our apartment, guess what? That basically says the continued belief of you can be bought and you can be sold. And it doesn't matter because you do not hold value to your own community. I'm a clinician. I actually see clinicians that are out there that are doing things that I would never represent myself, and it's bringing down the image of just Black mental health professionals in the business. There's a lot of them out there. Whether it's TikTok or social or any type of Twitter or Instagram, I cringe because then now you got somebody that's looking for me to do the exact same thing, but I hold myself at a different caliber. And so we need to be able to do that.
So that's the negative stereotypes in media. When we come forward after news, traffic, and sports, we'll move to microaggressions at work. I don't know a Black person anywhere who has not been subjected, is not being subjected, perhaps even as we speak, to a variety of microaggressions at work. We're talking about racial trauma and all the different ways it shows up and what we can do about it in the days, weeks, and months ahead. Our guest is Dr. Wendy Talley. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. A Pennsylvania grand jury has found the Pittsburgh Tree of Life synagogue shooter is eligible for the death penalty. Robert Bowers was convicted last month of killing 11 people in the deadliest anti-Semitic attack in U.S. history in 2018. The government wants the death penalty for Bowers, and now the jury will hear evidence to decide if Bowers will be sentenced to death or life in prison. Digging gets underway in Oklahoma today as part of a search for remains connected to the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. Archaeologists are performing tests near a cemetery looking for DNA as a way to guide crews towards their next excavation site. Newspaper articles from that time suggest there are possible mass graves in several areas around the city. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Wendy's BOGO $1 deal is back at participating Wendy's. Buy a Dave single, spicy chicken sandwich, 10-piece nugs, or medium frosty, and get another for $1. Double your deliciousness. Hurry, this BOGO deal won't last.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The last time we heard LeBron James talking about basketball, he said he wasn't sure if he wanted to play again. He said he had a lot to think about. That was the night the Lakers were swept by the Denver Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals. LeBron did do a lot of thinking, and he came to the conclusion he still wants to play some ball. LeBron made it official Wednesday night at the ESPY Awards that he's coming back for a 21st season. He made the announcement after receiving an ESPY for a best record-breaking moment. LeBron is one of only 6 players in NBA history to play 21 seasons. He joins Dirk Nowitzki, Kevin Garnett, Robert Parrish, Kevin Willis, and Vince Carter. LeBron turns 39 in December. The 4-time NBA champ will earn $47 million next season in a Lakers uniform. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Did you know that feeling sluggish or weighed down could be signs that your digestive system isn't working at its best? But taking Metamucil every day can help. Metamucil supports your daily digestive health using a special plant-based fiber called psyllium. Psyllium works by forming a gel in your digestive system to trap and remove the waste that weighs you down. Metamucil's gelling action also helps to promote heart health and slows down sugar absorption to promote healthy blood sugar levels. Start feeling lighter and more energetic by taking Metamucil every day.
She's so smooth, so... I'm interrupting my own shower to remind you to treat your skin like the queen she is with Olay Hyaluronic Body Wash, packed with Olay's highest level of vitamin B3 complex. It's so moisturizing that it will give you visibly smoother, head-turning skin in just 14 days. People wondering, how'd she get so smooth? Olay Hyaluronic Body Wash. Also, try Olay Hyaluronic Body Lotion.
Spilled your drink? Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up spills quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less than the leading ordinary brand. So you can get back to your night. Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
Black Lives Matters turns 10, and KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to be the exclusive media partner of the People's Justice Festival. This Saturday, July 15th, 12 to 6 p.m. in Leimert Park. Come join us as we celebrate the life-saving and history-making work of Black Lives Matter. to help bend the arc of the moral universe toward justice. There will be live music performances, a children's village, giveaways, vendors, a healing justice space, Skillshare, and amazing speakers including Green Party presidential candidate Dr. Cornel West, live on stage at 4:30 p.m. For more information, go to blmgrassroots.org. That's www.blmgrassroots.org. Dominique DePrima and Tavis Smiley will be main stage hosts throughout the day, and the KBLA Talk 1580 delegation will be out in full force. So, join us this Saturday, July 15th, 12 to 6 p.m. at Leimert Park as we celebrate the 10th anniversary of Black Lives Matter. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
I done plant my seeds, now I'm rooted. Brown skin popping, I'm rooted. Can pull the hood out me, I'm rooted. Rooted, nappy head, rooted.
Find a righteous rage and don't be afraid to say what you see. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
No changes. Wake up in the morning and I ask myself, is life worth living? Should I blast myself? I'm tired of being poor and even worse, I'm black. My stomach hurts, so I'm looking for a purse to snatch. Cops give a damn about a Negro. Pull a trigger, killing, he's a hero. Get it to the kids who the hell cares. One less hungry mouth on the welfare.
I'm Tavis Smiley. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580, and we are delighted about that. Our guest in this hour is Dr. Wendy Talley, as we continue our conversation about racial trauma. The mental and emotional injuries caused by that and how we can better navigate that which we are subjected to in large measure because of the melanin in our skin, no other way around that. We were talking a moment ago about the negative stereotypes in media as part of the racial trauma that black folk are often subjected to. I want to move now to talk about microaggressions at work and how those of us who are in workspaces every day and subjected to colleagues who engage in microaggression. Sometimes they are aware of it, sometimes they are not. I always make the point, Dr. Talley, sometimes it's racism, sometimes it's just ignorance. But whether it's racist or whether it's ignorant, it's still a microaggression. Many of us are often subjected to it. What say you to black people about the racial trauma of microaggressions in the workplace?
Well, with that, one thing about work is that this is something that we do. We spend how many hours with our colleagues in the workplace, whether if we're in the living room or whether if we're in the office space. That is very impactful when it comes to racial trauma because it's constantly in our ear and it's in our face, which is also mimicking the social media, images that are constantly in our ear and in our face. And so those impacts can affect, your job performance and things like that. A study that was done, released by Harvard basically stated that, 21% of white peers really believe that they're allies, in the workplace to their BIPOC or their, people of color counterparts. But in actuality, sometimes ignorance or sometimes racism, plays a part, and it almost seems like it's a game, it's a part of fashion. And so when you deal with those, those racial or those microaggressions that are in the workplace, it can come out in the various different languages and the questions and the comments, that we make. Even in the workplace, when you ask somebody or when you say to somebody, I don't see color when I look at you. Mm-hmm. How can you not? Not only from the outfit that I'm wearing, but from the beautiful melon that is sitting here in front of you. And how can you not see color? And so that is a form of ignorance and sometimes even a form of, kind of calling your bluff and maybe even demeaning your level of intelligence that you would even think that I would even be okay with something like that. And it gives them a pass, to be able to say that I can be okay in my whiteness and I can make you feel okay in your blackness as long as I don't see you. Because if you don't see my color, you don't see me at all. Mm-hmm. And so I think in the workplace, when you talk about these microaggressions, you talk about it in space of, how can we impact, black leaders from, executives to, supervisors, even to line staff. There's a gap on actually how can we actually progress in the workspace? How can we promote? How can we feel good about going into the workplace? I speak to a lot of executive leaders. I even speak to entertainers. And privately, they talk to me about how they would just drive into the parking lot. And all of a sudden, they will begin to get hit with anxiety, depression, imposter syndrome, and saying, why am I here? Why do I deserve this? I don't want to be here anymore. I am tired of being me. I'm tired of being me because it's too much for me to handle. And so those microaggressions can really make a big impact on every part of you as a professional and even, in the workplace.
As a licensed clinician, when you are talking to clients and they are sharing with you their own personal stories of the microaggressions that they encounter at work and the toll it's taking on them, how they don't want to be there anymore. I mentioned a few days ago on this program a survey I read not long ago that the overwhelming majority of black folk in this country do not like the jobs to which they go every day. Most of us hate the jobs that we go to for a variety of reasons. But when you're talking to your clients about microaggressions in the workplace, how do you advise them? What counsel do you give them for how to deal with that? Like, what do you say? What do you do to coworkers who happen not to be black who microaggress up on you? How do you deal with that? How do you navigate that?
You know what's so interesting? It actually even happens to me when I'm in a session with someone who is not of color. And after blinking and breathing and taking a sip of coffee and internally praying for grace, I have to ask them, where did that come from? Let's talk about what just happened. And so where you're seeing a lot of the Karens and the Kens that are happening, what's happening is that I'm calling you on the stuff that you've been told that it's okay to say and do. I am calling you out on that. I am now making you accountable. And your skin complexion no longer gets to, exclude you from taking responsibility. And so how I talk to my clients about that, those that actually do it to me in actually therapy sessions, but also to those that, how do I deal with my boss? How do I deal with my employees? I'm a black leader, but they are displaying to me microaggressions. The first thing I tell them is this: know exactly why you're there, okay, when you are experiencing that. But those that actually do the microaggressions, I always ask them, where did that come from? Talk to me about where that belief in that comment and or question you just stated, where did that come from?
And what do you?
Let's go back.
And what do you? Not to cut you off. And what do you typically? What do you typically hear when you ask them where in the world did that just come from? What do you typically hear?
Usually, I get a blank stare and a few blinks, and I usually hear the wonderful get out of jail free card. I don't know. Well, let's talk about how you don't know that, right? So let's break down the sentence. And what I end up finding is that it's this need to feel included, this need to feel like if I make them feel seen by me, I give them value. My recognition to this black or brown or Asian employee, if I tell them I see you and I try to align myself with you, I'm giving you value in the workplace. Not the fact that you are a PhD, not the fact that you graduated from some of the best HBCUs in the country, not the fact that you have, changed some world things, you are an inventor, you are a creator, not the fact that you're the vice president. My acknowledgement of you gives you value. So that's where the entitlement and that's where the privilege comes in. So my whiteness gives you value. And guess where that comes from? Childhood. Remember I said earlier, it's about the learned behavior. See, we all come out of this world with one thought in mind. I just want my needs met and I just want to be loved. And where the separation comes from is how do we act around other people? How do I make you feel comfortable? If you can just be yourself and own yourself, then we can have a dialogue and a relationship. See, for me, I deal with a lot of racist people all day long, and those are some of my best people that I work with that want to work with me, and we have the best relationship. Why? Because of the fact that I have boundaries. So that person that make those microaggressions, we have to first talk about boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that. Believe what you believe. That is yours to own, but you cannot give it to the person that you're doing it to for them to hold it for you. I will not carry your trash bag outside of your house, and I don't even live there. That is yours. And so in those sessions, I'm constantly working with people who don't even understand. I actually just had a client I just ended with that got fired because of the fact that he said that there was a popular song back in the 20s by a very well-known activist and that talked about lynching. And he loved the song so much, he started to sing it to his black employee. And why would you do that? You work in IT.
Yeah.
Why are you singing this song? And he, in his mind, he said, I don't have any hatred. I just like the song. What is it about this song that you like so much that talks about the lynching of another? And then he looks at me. And I said, let's talk about that, because that comes from somewhere. And we had to go deep, and we had to go into his automatic thinking that black people, when he was growing up, his grandparents and his parents told him that he was part of a chosen people, and those folks over there, they were less than. So you grew up with this belief system. So when you said this to this young lady at the workplace in IT, and I don't know why y'all having these kind of songs, but when you did that, you just told her she's no good. She's less than. Yeah. And I'm better than you because I can sing this and you can't do nothing about it. But you're mad at her because you got fired for doing something like that.
Yeah. I suspect when you are a licensed clinician and you are in a session and you are victimized, you are subject to a microaggression. I assume, Dr. Talley, you can't snap off, can you?
No, I can't. No, I can't. There's several things that go into my head.
Yeah.
You know, when I get off the phone, I have to call the girls and, okay. And, you know, but it happens to me quite often.
Yeah.
Look at my name. Let's start with my name.
Yeah.
My first name is Wendy. Now, we've gotten used to the fact that many people of color are named Wendy. But growing up in the 70s, that wasn't a common name for black little girls.
Yeah.
So when I get my clients who are Caucasian, what ends up happening is when I log on and I pop up with this beautiful melanin, I got my lips on and we're ready to make this happen, I see a pause. And then what I do is I'll say, it's okay. I want you to breathe this through. Okay? I want you to ask me every question.
Hold that thought for a second. I'm laughing, even though it's not funny. She has to level set at the very beginning of the conversation because they see your face like, oh, my God. We'll continue, Dr. Wendy Talley, when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Be sure to like and follow Tavis Smiley at The Real Tavis Smiley and get Twitter updates at Tavis Smiley. The conversation continues when we come forward.
Hollywood Walk of Fame stars in 2024. Stay tuned to find out who's in next year's class. I'm Aisha Cairo with your K-Black Minute News. A new group of 31 entertainment professionals across film, television, radio, recording, and sports entertainment will have their names etched into Hollywood's history in 2024. One of the most celebrated names on the list was the beloved Chadwick Boseman. Others for the class of 2024 in Hollywood Walk of Fame was this year's Oscar winner Michelle Yeoh in the motion picture category. Other notable names include Chris Pine, Gwen Stefani, Andre, Dr. Dre, Young, Otis Redding, Christina Ricci, Brandy Norwood, Harry Washington, and more. The dates for the stars ceremonies have not yet been scheduled. To find out all 31 inductees, visit youtube.com/Walk of Fame.
For adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy, now there's Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months, and Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Nothing in me go hand in hand. Nothing on my skin, that's my new place. Nothing is every day.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
With Skyrizi, you could achieve 90% clearer skin. Ask your doctor about the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Mom's early Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take.
And when I left the oven on, we decided together that it was time to see a doctor and make a plan.
Early detection gave us more time to seek out information and support as a family.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. For more information, visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
For the ones who know safety isn't a catchphrase, it's a culture. And the ones who help make sure everyone makes it home safe. For the safety-minded who watch everyone's backs, Grainger offers supplies and solutions for every industry, as well as safety assessments and training to keep your facilities safe and your people safer. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
The Dell Technologies Black Friday and July event starts now with limited quantity deals on top business PCs with Windows 11 Pro. Save on select Vostro laptops with built-in security features and select Latitude laptops with enhanced privacy, collaboration, and connectivity. Plus, get special financing with Dell Business Credit. Dell Technologies recommends Windows 11 Pro for business. Call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL. Offered to business customers by WebBank, who determines qualifications for and terms of credit.
We're not for everybody, but we're for everybody. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
So, Dr. Wendy Talley, you were on a roll, and I hated to cut you off, but now we can take it to the top of the hour here. So let me ask you to back up again and tell me what happens in these moments where, as you said, you put your lips on and you go on Zoom, or people come into your office, and all of a sudden they realize that Dr. Wendy is actually a black licensed clinician. Tell me about what those moments feel like, and how it is that you sort of husband yourself and you can go ahead and do the job that you are professionally trained to do when you yourself in that moment have been victimized by a microaggression.
You know, over 23 years of doing this type of work, and prior to that being a full black woman from Los Angeles, California, South Central, you know, I have learned over time that not to accept how people, you know, view me.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it hurts. Yes, I have to deal with it, but I don't have to own it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I'm in those moments and they come onto the screen, or if they, you know, we're getting back to in person now, I walk out of the office and I say good morning, and I see this look on their face, and I give it a moment of pause.
Mm.
And what I like to do is give a safe space for you to feel the way that you need to feel, and ask me whatever questions you need to ask me, and you know, whatever concerns that you may have. Sometimes I will even ask them, are you comfortable with me being a black woman sitting in front of you providing you mental health services?
Mm.
Sometimes I will just ask the question, because you have to break it. And, you know, at first I can see that they're feeling uncomfortable. It's okay. And I will tell them, I can't own what you've been raised with, because it's not mine to own.
Anybody
talk about that.
Anybody ever told you, yes, I am bothered by the fact that you're a black clinician?
Yes.
And
this person's been with me now 3 years. This person's been with me for 3 years.
So how'd you get through that? When they told you, when they admitted to you, yes, I got a problem that you're a black woman, and they're still with you 3 years later, how did you navigate through that?
I navigated by talking about, what are you experiencing?
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me physically. How am I making you feel? Let's talk about that. And then I'll say is, what is that connected to? What trauma in the past did you connect that with?
Mm.
A lot of times it's experience that they've seen outside of themselves that parents or their community may have exposed them to. So that's how I deal with it. I take it away from me. Let's talk about how this impacts you. So what other areas in life do you feel uncomfortable with people that look like me? And that's in the beginning. That's in the beginning. So I take it away from myself. And then at the end of the conversation, what I find that most people say is this. I've never actually been comfortable to talk about it, but because you made me feel okay to be myself, and then actually I did not want to even have these feelings, but this is something that I've been brought up to believe, you made me feel comfortable to talk about it. And now I feel like I'm safe with you. Okay, let's talk about safety. Where did the lack of safety come from? Who did that to you? So now I need to put a person to it, right? That a lot of times it's never me. Me meaning not Wendy, but a black person that looked like me. Yeah. And so when I dig deep into that, that's how I do that. And why they're with me for 3 years? The reason is because can now connect with you on levels that you've been wanting to go to that nobody has ever been able to penetrate.
So what do we say then to African Americans, no doubt listening right now, who have therapists, have persons they go talk to, and what comes out of these conversations is the racial trauma that they have been subjected to, but they happen to be talking to a white therapist because there are a whole lot more of them than there are of you.
Yeah, that happens quite a bit, and this is why we have a wait list. But if you have a therapist that does not look like you, that you do not feel that connects with you, have the conversation. Surprisingly enough, you can still have the conversation with some. And don't make it based off of your skin color, because, civilization started with us. So we can create all things. So sometimes someone who may be passing as white could actually be black. So let's determine for that, and if you guys are comfortable in talking about it. But at the end of the day, if you do not feel that your clinician is culturally competent and they are not understanding you from the space that you want to be understood from, you have the right to change. Do not, and I repeat, anyone that's listening, just because they're sitting in that room with that degree behind their head does not mean you're obligated to speak to them. You can choose whomever you want to talk to. But I will say this, not every black therapist can relate to every black person because our experiences do not always transcend across the board. There are patients that have come to me that said that I cannot relate to them. Yeah. And I can even say that I can't even relate to them either because of the fact that I just can't penetrate it. Yeah. We're not connecting. The chemistry's not there.
No, I get that. I got 2 minutes left here. I guess I want to close on this note, not a happy note. Maybe you can flip it for me. But my concern is that for all of us who are subjected to these microaggressions and the stereotypes in media and outright killings by police of black people and maltreated when you walk into a store and looked at funny, for all that racial trauma that we endure, I don't know where black folk writ large go for help. If you're talking to white therapists who aren't culturally competent, on the one hand, or you trying to pray your way through this, I believe in Jesus. I pray to Jesus every day. But there's sometimes you need to talk some things out. I just don't know how we deal ultimately with the racial trauma that we are subjected to. So let me close on that note with you and get your take on that.
Yes, and I can just give you some major points. And sure. I will first say this. If you believe in God and you believe that God created all things, you cannot separate all things if all things was created by God. Okay? So whether if it's a clinician, whether if it's therapy, God has created all things. And prayer and therapy works. This is why there's counseling in the church. Yeah. Where does counseling come on? Where does counsel come from? So pray and go to therapy at the same time is definitely one thing. Also, too, acknowledge it. Don't try to hide behind it and say, okay, it's happening outside of me. But how are you participating in it in your own home? And that's where I talk about we have to take accountability of what we accept. And then also, too, practice some self-compassion. How do you do that? Please give yourself grace. Give yourself grace in those spaces that if you're feeling what you're feeling, it is valid, and you don't need somebody else's opinion or their skin complexion to give you value and validation. Participate in activities like that's going to be happening this Saturday in Leimert Park. Go where you're celebrated. Go where the melon is beautiful. Go where you see the smiles and the culture and the food and the essence and the smells out there that kind of reinforce why. And bring your kids, right? Bring your kids so they can see those kinds of things. Those are some things that you can do and stay connected and build those communities where you are safe.
Dr. Wendy Talley, you always welcome on this program. You always make us think. You always provide insights that are empowering, uplifting, inspiring, and at your best. You challenge us to re-examine the assumptions we hold. You help us expand our inventory of ideas. I've enjoyed this conversation immensely, as I always do. Thank you for your time. We'll do it again somewhere down the road.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I appreciate you. In our third and final hour today, we'll be joined by the mother of Trayvon Martin, Sabrina Fulton, on KBLA Talk 1580.
Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. A reenactment of the deadly mass school shooting in Parkland, Florida could take place within the next month. A Broward County judge approved a motion to allow 2 reenactments of when a gunman opened fire in Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in 2018, killing 17 people and injuring 17 others. A Montgomery, Alabama businessman is suing the city's African-American mayor for